Technics RT5000, the flagship, the only DAC M from Technics. This is without a doubt one of the very best, if not the very best, desktop DAC M which I have the pleasure to use so far. And just like many other amazing DAC M, amazing product, it does have certain limitation, which I like to address now upfront, because everything else about this RT5000 is just simply amazing. There are three limitations which I like to address, and first and foremost, it starts at the front here. You see this beautiful wood faceplate here, and this recessed compartment here, 4.4 mm balance, 3.5 mm single-ended, and this 6.3 mm single-ended termination. You would notice that it is very recessed, which means that if you have something like this, which is an L plug configuration, and if you try to plug it like this, chances are you might not be able to plug it all the way in, okay? Especially if you have something which is quite big, like this 6.3 angle plug. So you need to use straight plug with this RT5000. And then, second limitation, just have a look here. This is the power cord supplied with this RT5000. It is very short. It is less than 1 meter. You see that? Which means that depending on your setup of your desk, you might need to find a solution at which you have to relocate your power supply so that it will be sitting closer to your machine or your desktop. And the cable of the USB is way longer, perhaps over 2 meters. So kind of a bit mismatch there. It is a small thing, but I find it a bit inconvenient at times. And the third limitation would be the resolution. Despite being equipped with dual ESS Sabre ES9038 Pro, this RT5000 would only be able to resolve native DSD up to 256. So it is kind of a bit surprising, because certain smaller DAC M would be able to support up to 512. So if you have a library which is full of 512 or even 1-bit resolution DSD, then you might not be able to use this. Be mindful of that. Other than that, this thing, like I mentioned again, let me repeat myself, super amazing. Just have a look here, okay? Very beautifully built. At the side here, you would notice there's an opening. These are designed to dissipate heat. So this thing will not get overheated. And at the back here, you're going to have host of connection. Lots of connection, in fact. Of course, you have dual XLR balance. You have RCA out. And you have this optical connection. All connection, all covered. No problem at all. The most interesting thing about this RT5000 is that the power cord supplied here is rated at 15V. Now, that is another surprising aspect to it, because I have seen many DAC M being equipped with 12V. It is an indication of power, which I will talk a bit more later. Other than that, let's just have a look. Take a moment to enjoy the build quality of this RT5000. It's just simply exquisite, with this gold knob button here and everything. And this 3 button here, which is the gain button, the mute button, and the Bluetooth toggle button. Very simple, yet very effective. Rated at 1600 milliwatt of power per channel at 32 ohm from the 4.4 mm balance, high gain, super high gain. I would say that the power rating of this RT5000 is quite impressive. Even from the single-ended side, which is the 6.3 mm and 3.5 mm single-ended termination, you're still gonna get in excess of 800 milliwatt of power per channel. So all in all, very powerful. But then again, let's just get a bit of perspective. Let's just compare it with some of the other desktop DAC M, which I have the pleasure to use so far. Something like Burson Audio Playmate 2. Now, that Burson Audio Playmate 2 is rated at 3000 milliwatt of power at 32 ohm from single-ended termination, Class A amplifier. That is exceedingly powerful, almost like double this, okay? And even we have something like this iBasso DX340, which is fully capable of serving a role as a dedicated desktop DAC M. If you plug in 12 volt power into it, then it would offer in excess of 2150 milliwatt of power at 32 ohm from the 4.4 mm balance in high gain. So I would say that this is fairly powerful, but not the most powerful. But then again, when I first receive it, I plug it in to my MacBook Pro here. Easy connection, does not require any kind of special driver, plug and play. I was so very happy. And then I plug in my headphone here, which is Sennheiser HD600 300 ohm headphone. And I immediately toggle the super high gain. By the way, there are 4 levels of gain, which is the low, medium, high, and super high. I always love the maximum gain, so I switch on super high gain. I connect it to 4.4 mm balance, and I was shocked. I was shocked because it was so exceedingly powerful to a point that I actually have to notch down from super high gain to high gain only, and I actually need to crank down the volume here at the volume port here at around 3 out of 10 in order to get proper listening level from this HD600. Now that is mind-blowingly powerful when it comes to actual delivery of the power itself. And true indeed, when I connect it to something which is a lot more demanding like this Fostech T40 RP Mark III here, which is rated at 91 dB sensitivity, this is without doubt the hardest to drive headphone in my collection so far. Then I was able to use the super high gain. However, I still need to crank down the volume at around 3 out of 10 in order to get proper headroom for this. Because if I were to crank it any higher, then it will be just too loud. The good thing is that it does not distort even when I crank the volume higher all the way to 5, and I just simply can't go beyond 5 because if I do that, I would be ended up in hospital. That's how powerful this thing is. No doubt about it. One of the most powerful DAC amp which I have tried so far. And on top of it, it also offers 7 levels of filters. Now, I must admit that after trying it for quite a while, switching between the filters, which is easily toggled by just simply pressing it and then hold it, I do not sense that it changed at all the kind of sound temperament or any kind of influencing of the filter to the sound itself. It just simply sounds the same to me. Perhaps the limitation of my listening, perhaps it is not so effective with these 2 headphones which I have tried so far. And then talking about power, the good thing is that the variance between the low, the medium, the high and super gain is quite actually distinctive, because if you have super sensitive IEM, something like a stupidly sensitive IEM, hybrid IEM at under 5 ohm even, then it is so very easy to still use those IEM with this RT5000, because despite being super powerful, you only need to toggle the minimum or the low gain, which then will emit the kind of sound which I would consider as super clean. It does not emit any kind of shoutiness. It does not emit any kind of floor noises at all. So this thing is super versatile. It is fully capable of handling super sensitive IEM all the way to the most demanding headphone. No issue at all. Like I mentioned earlier, RT5000 comes equipped with dual ESS Sabre ES9038 Pro, 2 of them inside. And on top of it, it also comes equipped with 10 pieces of Texas Instrument OPA 1612. So in return, what you can expect from this RT5000 is that a very well tuned and exceedingly very well constructed and very well tuned DAC amp, which offer the kind of resolution, imaging, details, macro and micro detail, transient speed, and dynamic handling as can be expected from top-notch desktop DAC amp. And on top of it, the best part about this RT5000 is that while doing all that resolution, imaging, and technicalities, it is also very well balanced for being very musical at the same time. Now, let's just get a bit of perspective here. If I were to compare it with some other desktop DAC amp which I have used, especially Burson Audio Playmate 2 or even JDS Labs Atom 2 DAC and amp, which I love as well, I would even say that this thing kind of a bit, somewhere in between those two. Because when it comes to resolution and imaging, I must admit that Burson Audio Playmate 2, which is equipped, by the way, with V7 and also V6 premium op-amp, does appear to sound kind of a bit more resolving when it comes to micro detail, when it comes to, let's say, transient speed. But then, as a result of that, Burson Audio Playmate 2 would also appear kind of a bit edgy, kind of a bit clinical. It is the kind of DAC amp which you would want to use if you only care about details and resolution. But it is not the kind of DAC amp which I would want to use for certain type of music, especially energetic type of music or poorly mastered recording because the kind of resolution can be offensive. But this RT5000, it can still offer the kind of resolution and imaging to match Burson Audio Playmate 2 minus the offensiveness. So what I'm trying to say here is that this thing is in fact very analog sounding as well as being analytical at the same time. It is organic and it is even considered as warm sounding if I were to compare it with Burson Audio Playmate 2. Now that is very interesting. And when it comes to soundstage, comparatively it is as wide sounding and open sounding as the JDS Labs Atom 2. You might remember that if you have seen my review on JDS Lab Atom 2 DAC and amp, I declare that as the widest sounding desktop DAC amp which I have listened to so far. Now we have a competitor, which is RT5000, because when I use it with my Sennheiser HD600 here, or even this close back headphone of mine, which is this Fostex T40 RP Mark III, I was really surprised. This Sennheiser HD600 is not known for being wide and open sounding, but it does appear to be wide and open sounding when I use it with this RT5000 here. If you consider the fact that it is very well balanced, it is definitely rich sounding with the body of sound itself. For example, like linearly, it does not exhibit any kind of coloration at all. I would say that this RT5000 is definitely considered as something which is transparent, which is neutral, which is accurate. But the good thing is that being accurate and being transparent does not mean that it has to be lean sounding. Because one thing that you can expect from this RT5000, especially if you run the super high gain, running on very demanding headphone like this, then what you're going to get is something which is very rich with the sound texture itself. It is very tactile as it is very rich sounding. The texture is full of definition. I just simply love it. Because if you're familiar with ESS Saber, they tend to sound kind of a bit dry, kind of a bit, metallic sometimes. But this thing does not emit any kind of dryness or metallic sound to it. So all in all, I'm just going to simply declare that RT5000 is definitely the kind of desktop DAC amp that you would want to get if you want to have something which is highly analytical and musical at the same time. Thank you so very much for watching the video until the end. Without skipping, I hope. Now click like and subscribe, and also follow me on Instagram under the name of AndyAV. And also, if you'd like to support me directly, because all of my videos and reviews are unpaid, I am not earning anything, you can join the membership below for behind the scene, especially for AAV Insider and above, which will allow you to see what I am doing behind the scene, and I will share some of the items which I would normally not share in the public.